Hello there, welcome to Lunchtime News here on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Let's start off by taking a look at your headlines.
Will the government seek IMF assistance? Pakistan to provide debt to Sri Lanka after obtaining money from international lenders. Government launches 100,000 development projects drive. Will there be an election in the future? CEB awaits fuel to avert power cuts. Will Ranjin Ramannaika be pardoned on Independence Day?
විශේෂයෙන්ම ලොකු බලාපොරොත්තුකින් අපි සිටිනවා හෙට දවසේ නිදහස් දිනේ එතුමාට පූර්ණ නිදහස ලැබෙයි කියන කාරණා.
Cardinal to boycott Independence Day celebrations.
In your top story this afternoon, the Islandwide development drive dubbed the 100,000 Projects Initiative was launched today under the patronage of Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa.
The 100,000 projects launched under the village level program Damasamaga Pilisandarak through the 2022 budget aims to strengthen the livelihoods of all citizens and progress the country towards prosperity. The inaugural ceremony was held at 8:52 a.m. today, covering villages across the country. The main ceremony got underway at the Finance Ministry premises.
මාස 12ක් ඇතුළත අපි අවසන් කිරීමයි අපේ බලාපොරොත්තුව ජාතික ඉලක්ක.
We hope to complete this initiative within a few months and meet the set national goals. We cannot implement every single proposal submitted in the village in the exact same way based on monetary regulations. We are currently at a very critical position. When the people of this country feel these difficulties, the Finance Ministry feels this burden the most. We hope that we would be able to achieve the expected economic development this year in the sectors that had collapsed amidst this pandemic, as we have somehow succeeded in conducting the vaccination drive successfully under the leadership of the President and the Prime Minister. Under this program, we will implement major infrastructure, road, irrigation and water.
In more headline-making news, Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Kadjit, is to boycott tomorrow's Independence Day celebrations. The decision comes as he is unhappy over the investigations into the discovery of a hand grenade at a church in Borala. The spokesperson of the Archdiocese of Colombo, Reverend Father Cyril Gamini Fernando, commented on this today.
The Cardinal usually conducts a service for the Independence Day celebrations. This service is usually held at the All Saints Church in Borella. But as a result of certain decisions to arrest and inconvenience innocent people and the discovery of a hand grenade at the church, the Cardinal has decided to avoid conducting the service. He has also decided to boycott the Independence Day celebrations.
Opposition leader Ranjin Premadasa says he believes that former MP Ranjin Ramannaika would be granted pardon on Independence Day tomorrow.
Opposition leader Ranjin Premadasa visited former MP Ranjin Ramannaika in prison today. He made these remarks to the media.
විශේෂයෙන්ම ලොකු බලාපොරොත්තුකින් අපි සිටිනවා හෙට දවසේ නිදහස් දිනේ.
We have high hopes that he would be granted pardon and released tomorrow. We genuinely believe that he would be granted complete freedom tomorrow as a person who remained committed to the welfare of the people. Even when granting him freedom, we need complete freedom. We believe that Ranjin Ramannaika must be granted complete freedom tomorrow and have all the rights of an ordinary citizen restored upon him. We are requesting the President to come forward and to include this person who loved the people on the list of inmates who will be pardoned. If he isn't granted pardon for any reason, we will engage in a struggle for democracy and continue our struggle to protect him.
අපි එතුමාගේ අයිතිය සුරක්ෂා කරන්නට ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදීව සටන් නොදිනවයි කියන එකත් මේ අවස්ථාවේ කියන්න කැමතියි.
Central Bank Governor Archbishop Cabral has responded to comments on obtaining help from the International Monetary Fund. Yesterday, Finance Minister Rajapaksa said Sri Lanka would approach the IMF in a bid to resolve the economic crisis. He said a written request has been made to the IMF seeking technical assistance.
Central Bank Governor Archbishop Cabral says seeking expert advice from the International Monetary Fund is a routine program. In a tweet published today, the Central Bank Governor said Finance Minister Rajapaksa's comment with regard to Sri Lanka informing the IMF to provide expert advice on the prevailing economic situation is about a routine technical assistance program on macro-fiscal capacity building for the Ministry of Finance's new macro-fiscal unit and nothing else. We have not made it official yet, but we have requested for the assistance by providing their expertise, because the IMF is the internationally established organization to advise countries that are in crisis. So we requested them for assistance and we need money for this. The government of Japan has agreed to provide the required funds. The IMF has responded with confirmation on both matters. I think they will arrive in Sri Lanka soon and advise us on matters that we are not well informed about. I cannot decide alone whether to accept those advices or not.
The Pakistani media today reported that Pakistan is preparing to provide a loan worth $200 million to Sri Lanka upon receiving a $1 billion loan repayment from the International Monetary Fund. According to the foreign media report, Pakistan has suspended the tax exemptions of 350 billion rupees to revive the International Monetary Fund's loan program and has taken steps to increase the target of tax collection from 271 billion rupees to 6,100 billion rupees. In addition to that, the Executive Committee of the International Monetary Fund has granted the approval to release a loan repayment worth $1 billion, taking into account several measures adopted by Pakistan, such as reducing $200 billion from its development budget and increasing the prices of electricity and gas. Pakistani media reported that upon receiving $1 billion loan repayment from the IMF, the country expects to lend Sri Lanka a sum of $200 billion to purchase rice and cement.
What is the solution to the ongoing economic crisis? SJB MP Ranjin Ramannaika expressed his comments in this regard.
The governor of the central bank in his interview with the CNBC channel on the 24th of January says that we have food stocks. But what is happening really? When we go to a shop to buy milk powder, we are able to buy only one packet of milk powder. We have reached a point where it's impossible to find one bag of cement. Food inflation measured on the Colombo Consumer Price Index was 22% in December 2021. It had increased to 25% this year. In 1 month, the fluctuations took place only in the food category. If we take the non-food category, it has gone up from 7.5% in December to 9.2% in Jan. So compared to the rest of the world, Sri Lanka's inflation has risen sharply and is 12th among 200 countries. That means we will reach the first place soon.
සීග්‍රම ඉහළට ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. සීග්‍රම ඉහළට ගිහිල්ලා දැන් 12 වෙනි තැනට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ තව ටිකකින් පළවෙනි තැනටත් යන්න පුළුවන්.
Political parties are raising questions on whether the government is preparing for an election.
We are hearing from a few sources that they are planning to dissolve the government in an year and hold an election. If they complete their term and then go for an election, the situation would be worse. Therefore, they are trying to retain the president's powers and to conduct parliamentary elections at the earliest. They believe they can win the elections that way. Through their actions, the government has indicated that they have distanced themselves from the people. That is why they are preparing for an election now.
I
don't mind if the election is held even tomorrow. We can't conduct the presidential election. The constitution has prevented that from being held until the tenure is over. The parliamentary elections also can't be held until 2.5 years. The previous government formulated laws in a way that the provincial council elections can't be held. We need to try and amend that. That is the only election that we can go for at the moment.
We have around 2.5 years more for the presidential election. Recently I read in a newspaper that the government is trying to bring a new amendment to the constitution. I see this as an attempt to remain in power. Therefore, I believe that most probably the next national election we are facing will be a parliamentary election.
පාර්ලිමේන්තු මෙතියාරණයක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් කියලායි මම හිතන්නේ.
කාලයක් යනකොට රටේ අවශ්‍යතාවයන් වැඩි වෙනකොට
When the needs of a country are increasing, we need a new constitution that would prioritize Buddhism by respecting all ethnicities and faiths. We will fulfill the responsibility of preparing a new constitution, but we won't do that by hiding in parliament. We will obtain the views of the people and professionals for that.
අදහස් අරගෙන මේ ව්‍යවස්ථාව හදන්න කටයුතු සූදානම් කරනවා.
The Ceylon Electricity Board says power generation would be affected if there is insufficient fuel. The CEB spokesperson Andrew Navamunis said discussions are being held with the relevant parties to avert the situation.
The Ceylon Electricity Board says a final decision would be reached this afternoon on whether power cuts should be imposed today. CEB spokesperson Andrew Navamunis said power generation at certain power plants had been disrupted as there is insufficient fuel to generate electricity. Power generation at the Kalanthissa and Matagaon power plants have been halted temporarily at present.
Supporting rural education means building a nation's future. And together with the people of Sri Lanka, Gammadda is leading from the front. Development of preschools in Ramba and Isin Basagama, both in rural Anuradhapura. A preschool developed in Attan Kadavala in the North Central Province. Clean drinking water for the children of the Maligattin School in Valimata, Bandarvela. A library for the youngsters at the Kumbukoya Rural School between rural Polonnaruwa and Matale. Clean water for school children in Hambegamua, Munragala. Classrooms for students at the primary school in Ralapanava, Anuradhapura. The complete development of the Sindati Mata School in Kalpitiya, Puttalam. These are a few examples of Gammadda's action and impact. Thanks to you, the people. Gammadda, by the people, for the people.
Operations at the Jaffna District Secretariat were affected due to protests by fishermen. The fishermen are opposing the illegal entry of fishermen into Sri Lankan waters. Today, the fishermen obstructed the roads leading to the Jaffna District Secretariat and the Northern Governor's Office. State Minister Arundhika Fernando's son was produced at the Wattala Magistrates Court today. This was in connection to the attack on some students at the Kelaniya University's medical faculty yesterday. The arrest was made after the 23-year-old had surrendered to the Ragama police through his lawyer. The Kalabovila police has seized a motor vehicle used to carry out the assault. 7 suspects have been arrested so far in connection to the incident. State Minister Arundhika Fernando commented on this matter today.
If I'm connected to this incident, or if this incident had taken place with my knowledge, I have said that I would resign from my positions. My son and the student involved in the incident are batchmates. The third-year student opposes ragging and is one of the top students in the batch. However, I saw that his mother had also said that he was attacked continuously. The others had gone to rescue him. I don't know what happened there, but if a state vehicle was used for this, that is wrong. Any disciplinary action should be taken against that. The law must be enforced over this.
The Colombo High Court is to take up a case filed against MP Ranjin Ramannaika on the 17th of June. He is facing charges over a motor traffic accident that severely injured a youth in Rajagiriya. Colombo High Court Judge Namal Balle set the date for the hearing after rejecting the preliminary objections against him. The case has been filed by the Attorney General for reckless driving that caused severe injuries to a youth and for failing to move the victim to a hospital. In more local news, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has met with the new envoys of Gambia, Indonesia and Israel today. The Prime Minister's office said several matters of bilateral cooperations were discussed at the meeting.
During the discussion with Gambia's ambassador Mustafa Jawara, the two delegations discussed enhancing cooperation between Sri Lanka and Africa overall. Indonesia's ambassador Dewi Gustina Tobing had highlighted Sri Lanka and Indonesia's 70th anniversary of establishing diplomatic relations this year. The ambassador also noted that there is potential for greater cooperation in areas such as trade, investment and tourism. The Sri Lankan delegation had encouraged Indonesia to consider making use of Sri Lanka's ports, which could serve as transshipment hubs, highlighting cooperation between Sri Lanka and Israel in the past areas such as counterterrorism. Israel's ambassador Naur Izda Gilon highlighted several other areas for potential cooperation as well.
In news overseas, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said today New Zealand will not fully reopen its borders until October as it cautiously dismantles some of the world's toughest pandemic border restrictions.
Before and now life with COVID.
Ardern announced a 5-step plan to reconnect New Zealand to the rest of the world, beginning with waiving hotel quarantine requirements for Kiwis stranded overseas by the pandemic. She said New Zealanders in Australia could return home and self-isolate rather than going into quarantine from the 27th of February, followed 2 weeks later by Kiwis elsewhere in the world. The border quarantine regime will then be progressively relaxed to allow in other groups such as skilled migrants, international students, Australians and then all vaccinated foreign nationals. Under the new system, international arrivals will self-isolate for 10 days rather than undergoing a 10-day quarantine monitored by New Zealand military personnel.
And that's a wrap of lunchtime news here on TV1. Thank you for joining us. You can always visit our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk, for all these stories and much more. For the News First team, I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Do have yourself a great day ahead.